Hello everybody, in today's video I will talk about the Asset API and how to connect the Asset API to the Grid Singularity Exchange. So to give a little bit of context, the Asset API is designed for asset owners, asset vendors and researchers, and the goal is then to actively manage people's assets and place bids and offers on their behalf on the exchange. By doing this, is that possible to optimize the trading strategy and the asset management system. So there are basically two ways to connect the Asset API to the Grid Singularity Exchange. First way is through a local simulation. So this means running a simulation with the backend on your own computer. The second option will be to connect the API to a web running application from our user interface, which is the Grid Singularity map. And in this video I will only focus on the first option, so we will together run and launch a local simulation and connect the API to it. So first step that we need to do is to start the server. At Grid Singularity we use Redis, so we'll just have to open our terminal and type Redis server, and as we can see now we are ready to accept new connections coming in. Then we need to define the community that we want to simulate, right? So since it's a local simulation, we will need to use a script, a community setup file, and I particularly will use a template file that you can find in our GitHub repository. Of course, you are free to use any and to customize your community setup, but exactly in the context of this video I will just use default community.py that you can find in our GitHub repo. So just really briefly going through the script, as we can see the community is designed and we have all the different areas such as different houses with assets inside for the community itself, and different strategies and data that are associated to them. It is also important to mention here that the market maker is defined. For example, we just fixed an energy buy rate of 21 cents per kilowatt hour and an energy sell rate of 22 cents per kilowatt hour. But once again, this is just a template file, and you are absolutely free to customize it as you wish. So now the next step, I will switch to my PyCharm. Of course, feel free to use any editor that you want and that you feel more comfortable with. And I will now initiate the simulation and will launch the community setup file. By doing this, we will go together through the command line, which is and how that needs to be written. So I will start by of course writing GSY exchange. I will need to specify the log level, and info is the amount of information that I want to have and I want to see in the terminal by launching the simulation. I want to add the run flag here, and then a set of parameters such as the tick length, which we suggest to be 5 seconds, the slot time length, which must be 15 minutes, and then we need to specify the setup file, which is the script we just looked at, which in my case is in the API setup folder, and it's called default community. After that, we of course the goal of this video is to show how to connect the APIs, so we need to somehow communicate this in this command line through the following flag, which is enable external connection. Also, we want to have some extra time to launch the APIs before running the simulation itself. So we will add a flag which is called paused as we will see in a few minutes. We will just run the simulation, launch the file now, but then the simulation won't start uh, because we will have some time to then launch the API and then we can resume the simulation, but this will be much more clear now in a few minutes while I will do that. And the last flag that we are interested in is the slot length real time, and we will set it to 10 seconds. This means that the 15 minutes of this slot length in the simulation actually correspond to 10 seconds in real time. So we are ready to launch the simulation now by pressing enter, and we will see exactly that the simulation is now paused, and we will have to press P once we are ready to resume, and exactly once we defined and launched the APIs. So now it's time to launch the APIs. And Grid Singularity proposes as well different template scripts, and in particular I will launch today the Redis basic strategies.py that can be also found in our GitHub repository. This script, we can also go through it really quickly. First thing we need to do, so let's start from the beginning. The objective of this script is to somehow connect with the assets and it proposes a really basic trading strategy. So we will see bids and offers posted as well as trades inside the community, which is the goal number one of the Asset API, as we described and said at the beginning of the video. So first thing that we do in this script is to actually mention what are the assets that we want to connect to in the, of course, setup file. And then we have four main events here that are triggered. The first is called on market cycle. This is triggered at the beginning of every market slot, and in this event the different trading strategies are built. In this case, as I said, we propose strategies based on the feed-in tariff rate and on the market maker rate. So these strategies are essentially a linear function between these two values, and as we can see, it is clearly they are clearly separated between consumption assets, generation assets, and storage assets. And then what happens at the beginning of the market slot, also the first bid and or offer are posted by looking at the required energy for consumption assets and available energy for generation assets, as well as buy energy and sell energy for storage assets. The second event which we want to describe here is the on tick event. This is triggered at any tick, which is a 10% of the market slot progression, and at every tick, a bid or offer is posted as following following the same function that we just looked at, but the difference here is that of course the rate, as we will see more clearly when running the simulation, the rate at which the bid and or offer is associated will change by following the trading strategies. At the end of the script, we have two more events here. So the on event or response, which produces a message that aggregates all the different events that the API client receives, such as market information and responses of the batch commands, and the on finish event that of course is responsible to stop the simulation. And this last function is just responsible for the connection with the assets that we listed at the beginning of the script. Perfect. So now we can go back to our PyCharm, and as we did for the setup file, we can now launch the API and write together the command line here. So I will start by writing GSY SDK. I will also have to define the log level, which is going to be info. Also in this case, I want to define the setup file, which we said being Redis basic strategies. We need an additional flag which is run on Redis because, as I said at the beginning of the video, we have to it is possible to launch APIs also with the user interface, but now we are running a local simulation, so we need to communicate that. And finally, we need to also define here the path where this setup is located, its location in the computer. So we just quickly put my location. I'm in the desktop. All right, so this should be it. So we launch it, and as we can see, we successfully, I can expand a little bit more this window, we successfully connected to all the assets, the 3 loads, the 2 PVs, and the Tesla Powerwall. And we also get here printed a summary of the asset registered. So we can go back to our main simulation page over here and press P to resume the simulation now that we launched our API. It takes a few seconds, and then really good, we can see here all the trades happening on the exchange side, but more interestingly, we can see what happens on the API side. So looking at the beginning of the market slot, for example, the midnight 15 market slot, we can see the different load posting their bids. Here, the value of energy is specified and the rate of the bids is also specified. And then at any 10% or at any tick, the load updates their bids. As you can see, of course, the amount of energy is the same since no trades has happened, but the price, of course, changes following the trading strategies that have been defined in the script. And this, of course, continues during the whole market slot until reaching the end of it. And in this case, for example, since we are in the middle of the night and there's no PV production, the load will buy the required amount of energy from the market maker rate at 30 cents per kilowatt hour, for example. And exactly. And this is a pattern. Then, of course, we'll start again in the next market slot and so on. So this is it, and I just want to conclude the video by mentioning that in our public wiki we describe in detail how this APIs work. We also go through the code, especially in the Asset API section over here. You can find all the information related to the events, the commands, and the template scripts if you want to know more about that.